Perfect. Perfect.
All right, everybody, what's going on? And welcome to today's edition of SWACTalk. Of course, this is the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. And I am your tour guide around the SWAC Seawells coming at you. And today, with spring practice and all the spring games have come to an end. Yesterday was the last set of spring games. So I decided that today and Wednesday, I'm going to throw out my way too early SWAC Order of Finishes for each division. So we're going to start with the East Division today. This is, I try not to be reactionary with what happens in spring. I'm gonna try to, base this basically off of what happened in the spring and, how I think is gonna head into the fall. Some things that happen in the spring will impact, some of my predictions. Trying not to really say, oh, this team had a really great spring, so I'm gonna pick them number one. This team had didn't have as great of a spring. By some people's opinion, so I'm gonna rate them, last. But some of that does play a factor into this. So this is just just my early guess at how things will shape up by the time we get to media day, and then after media day, I'll do my official order of finish, and I'll do an all SWAC team around media day as well. So just some other content that's gonna come at you later. So like I said, today we're gonna start with the East Division. But before we do that, make sure you check out those socials. They're on the screen down below. The Facebook is SWACTalk, Instagram is SWACTalk, Twitter SWACTalk76. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We're making our way up to 900, so definitely appreciate the subscription. If you haven't done it already, man, hit that subscription button and like the videos. Make sure you share them if you like, and feel free to comment on your thoughts on how the East Division is going to shake out. So first and foremost, we're going to start off with number 6. And the number 6 team on my list is Bethune-Cookman. I feel like the Wildcats, I feel like they will be, I don't know what to think about them, honestly, man. I don't really have any, sorry about that. I don't have any, what am I doing? Yeah, hey, I'm still figuring this out. I don't have any real idea where this team stands. I think they'll be great. Not great. I think they're gonna compete, but I don't know where this team stands because there's not a lot of information on them coming out of the spring. I do know I don't think that the numbers are that great right now. So they still gonna have to add some pieces heading into fall camp. But I just don't really see this being a team that's gonna win a lot of games. So just because of what's going on with them and their numbers, they took a lot of heavy losses on offense. Marcus Riley, their best wide receiver, just went into the portal a few days ago, so that impacts this as well. They're gonna have a new quarterback, new running back. The defense is losing some pieces. They do return Omari Hill Robinson, who is an all SWAC cornerback, but this team, new coaching staff, just a lot of questions heading into this season and didn't get a lot of answers, mainly because there wasn't a lot of information out. So didn't get a lot of answers on where this team stands. So right now I put them at 6. Just looking at their schedule, it doesn't really offer a lot for them. Two FBS games on the schedule, Memphis and Miami. You do get Savannah State at home, so that probably will be your best, one of your best opportunities to win a game. Other than that, you open up SWAC play at Jackson State. You got Bama State on the road. You get Texas Southern at home. You get Southern in a neutral site. You got to go to Grambling. You get Valley at home. You get Alabama A&M at home, and then you get Florida A&M in the Florida Classic. So not a lot of opportunities to really pinpoint a game and say, okay, they're going to win this game. The closest thing I can say to that right now is Savannah State. but don't really know a lot about them at this moment. Valley is probably going to be your best opportunity for a SWAC win, but Valley's hungry. They have a new coach, so that's probably the one game that I would say that this is their possible win at the moment. So right now, that's where I stand with them early. So my early prediction right now would be anywhere between 2-9 and 1-10. I do think they will win a game. If they can, find some things and make some things happen, they may be able to win 3 or 4 games. But right now, I think 2 is right now. 2 is their max heading into fall camp. Like I said, once I do my official season preview and everything, I'll be able to pinpoint some things even better and get a more concrete idea where this team stands. But right now, they are slated to be my number 16. My number 5 team is Mississippi Valley, the Delta Devils. What is going? Oh, y'all bear with me. Okay, I gotta figure this out. My number 5 team is the Delta Devils of Mississippi Valley. Again, another team with a new head coach. Don't really know how this team is gonna shape up. They lost Caleb Johnson, who was their best running back for the last few years. So they're gonna have to add some pieces there. The quarterback room is getting redone. You're losing Jelani Easton, who had been a while, started off and on his time there. You do return Jamari Jones, but you also have a few other guys being added to the room. You're losing Ja'Cory Rankin at wide receiver, who was your best wide receiver defensively. You're taking a lot of losses. You're losing Ronnie Thomas, especially. That's a key loss to your defense. So with a new staff, they are showing some energy, and they're recruiting. I would say probably as well as Valley can at this moment. I feel like the energy and everything coming out of Valley right now, heading into the summer, puts them above Bethune-Cookman on my list. So that's why I put them there. I mean, right now these two teams are, I don't want to say interchangeable, but it's either one of them could easily finish 5th or 6th. I don't really think there's a big gap between the two teams right now. But I feel like the energy out of Valley is a lot better. And when you're coming out of the spring, that's one of the things that you look at. So you got a more tangible idea of what you can get from Valley than I do from Bethune-Cookman. So like I said, these are all, like they call them, soft factors that kind of make me make this list right now. That's why it's very rough. Valley opens up their schedule at in Chicago against Central State, so that's a game I think would be a great opportunity for them to get their first victory. Delta State's gonna be tough. Delta State beat them last year, so playing at Delta State is another tough game. So you may drop that one. You go to Indianapolis to play North Carolina Central in the Circle City Classic. Very tough game. Central is gonna be the leading contender to win the MEAC and a great opportunity to repeat in the Celebration Bowl. So that's a tough game for Valley. You come home for FAMU, another tough game. Valley does play tough at home, but they haven't won these kind of games at home. That's going to be a tough opportunity for them to go to Prairie View the next week. They've had the Panthers number the last 2 seasons. Can they do it again? It's possible. This is a team that, sometimes teams just have your number. In the last 2 years, Prairie View has had Valley's number, although those games were at the end of the season. Not to make no excuses for Prairie View, those games were kind of at the end of the season, but there was a lot on the line for Prairie View. In one of those games, the other game, they had the division wrapped up already, so it didn't really impact their division championship. But this should be a very intriguing game. You're going against your former running back, who with no salt or nothing like that, is going to be eager to play against you, and so that that's going to be a big game there. One of your games, one of your two two possible wins on the schedule is Pine Bluff on October 14th at home. So that's a game I think Valley has a great chance of winning. Again, if I was going to point to a game and say this is the SWAC game that I think they have a great chance to win, is Pine Bluff and Bethune-Cookman, which is on November 4th. So they have two games that I can easily see, I don't want to say easily, but two games that I can see them winning in conference play. And that is Bethune-Cookman and Pine Bluff. The next week they get Jackson State at home. Again, they play Jackson tough at home. I don't know if they're going to be able to get over the hump, but they do play them tough at home. And then they get Alcorn on the road, which will be a tough game for them. You know, I mean, they're going to be up for that, but it's going to be tough. And then they, after the trip to Daytona, they get Alabama State at home. This game now, it looks a little bit better for them than it did earlier, because we'll talk about Bama State in a minute. But I think this is a game that Valley might have an opportunity in. It's at home, and I think, you know, this might be that one game that they get that you know they may not have gotten. And then Alabama and them on the road to close out the season. They beat the Bulldogs at home last year, but like I said, Valley is a different animal on the road than at home. They're gonna have to find a way to start to turn that tide around if they want to pick up some extra victories. So right now, I can see Valley finishing with 2 SWAC wins, maybe a third or a fourth if they can steal a couple games. The 2 games at the end of the season are probably their best 2 opportunities to steal a game in the division or in conference play. If they were to finish, you know, 4-4, which would be a great improvement for this team, and maybe even 5-6 out of 5-6 overall. This will be a team that finishes 3rd place in the division if they won. I think they won 4 games, they would finish 3rd place in the division. So that's a lofty goal for a team that hasn't won a lot of games, but that's possible if they can steal a game or 2 toward the end of the season. The beginning of the schedule is tough. You're probably going to come out of your first 4 games at 1-3 if you can beat Central State. I don't know if you're going to beat Delta State right now. They're a really solid team. They look at what they returned and what they lost, but right now, you know, that's a tough game. So you're heading into the bulk of conference play with some tough games. Going on the road to Prairie View early in the season is going to be tough. So you could easily be 1-4 after your first 5 games, or 0-2 in conference play. That Pine Bluff game is a good game for momentum. You win that game, you head into the Jackson game, you know, and you know, like I said, I don't know. I don't really like your chances in this game, but I do think that Valley has an opportunity to, you know, be competitive in all of their games. So the last 2 games to me are the games that are gonna make or break this season. And those 2 games could be the difference between finishing last and finishing as high as 3rd if the chips fell that way and other teams kind of slid off. But to me, I feel like they're gonna finish 5th, and that'll be their opportunity to pull out a positive season for them. And that brings us to our number 4 team, and that's Alabama State. To me, this is the team that they came out of the spring, to me, worse than they went in. Obviously, you didn't necessarily answer your quarterback question in the spring. You do have, I guess you could say, your established starter already, but I don't really feel like, you know, from talking to people, I don't really feel like Davis has taken that step that you want your quarterback to take, you know, coming out of his first year starting and moving through his second spring. You know, I don't really feel like that step's been taken. And you're losing Miles Crawley, so that takes some depth out of the quarterback room. Your backups, they haven't really challenged as well. You may even be losing another quarterback out of that room. It's not certain yet, but it's possible. You're losing your top running back in Ja'Cory Merritt to the portal. You're losing a few defensive guys to the portal on top of the guys that you already lost due to eligibility. Due to losing the eligibility before at the end of the last season. So your defense should still be strong, but I think your defense is taking some losses that are going to be tough to replace, especially early. Losing Merritt is going to be tough. You do return Keyshawn Johnson at wide receiver, but quarterback play is still kind of iffy coming out of the spring. So there's still a lot of questions for Bama State. I don't feel like they've lost enough to put them below Valley or Bethune-Cookman, but I feel like this team went from heading into the spring, if you ask me, they were a solid number 3. If they were to steal a game against one of the top teams, they could even finish second. But right now, I feel like they're fourth because I don't know if they're going to be able to overcome those losses, especially early in the season. They're going to have to find some guys who they weren't expected to have to find replacements for at this portion of the season. And having a guy like Bubba Adams, who is a very, very great player, could have been Defensive Player of the Year last year. But he does have injury issues off and on. So, you know, his availability week in and week out is always going to be a question. So this team starts off with Southern. It's a non-conference game, but, you know, that's a division opponent at home. Whether that's a conference opponent at home, even though it's a non-conference game. That's a tough opening week game, especially for a team that's losing guys unexpectedly. Southern's lost a couple guys also through the portal late. So it's going to be an interesting game. You know, two teams, you know, with a lot of questions coming into the season. Bama State playing at home, it could help them. But, you know, like I said, we don't know how well they're going to replace those losses. So it's going to be very important to keep a tab on what Bama State does in the portal these next few weeks, and what they do heading into fall camp. So definitely this is a team to watch out for. Definitely going to be a true wild card. After Southern, they get Miles at home. That's definitely a must-win game. You get a week off, then you got to go to FAMU. You've lost your last 2 games against this team, including a shutout in 2021 in Bragg. So to me, I felt like before some of these losses that Bama State took, that this was a very, very important game, because I felt like if they were going to finish higher than third, they were going to have to beat either FAMU or Jackson State. And, you know, I don't know if they're going to be able to beat either one of those teams now, but that was a game that I felt like was I don't want to say must win, but in terms of finishing higher in the division, it was an important game to win. So I don't know where they stand now with those losses. Then they get Alcorn at home. That's going to be a tough game. Alcorn is probably going to be the preseason West champ. So that's a tough game for them at home. They get Bethune-Cookman at home, so that should be a victory. You got to go to Jackson State on October 14th. Gonna be tough. You know, I mean, JSU is replacing a lot of guys, but they still return a lot of talent. And, you know, I think the gap between these two teams is still big enough due to just talent that it's going to be a tough game. Now, Bama State, if their defense can improve, is going to make this a game, but I don't know if their offense is going to take that step because there's just so many questions with the offense, you know, the coaching, losing your best running back, quarterback play not being consistent. Offensive line wasn't great last year either, so gonna be a lot of questions that are gonna have to answer. I don't know if those questions are gonna be answered by October 14th. You get a week off, and then the very important Magic City Classic. I think this game is gonna be the difference between third place and fourth place for Bama State. I mean, regardless, you want to win this game because it's a rivalry, and you just snapped a losing streak last year, so you definitely want to keep winning this game regardless of where you're going to finish in the standings. But this is a game, to me, that's definitely a must-win for multiple reasons. You go to Mobile to play Grambling. This could be a game that could help you, you know, jump up, because Grambling's going to be a team that's in that mix for the West. Don't know where they're going to finish at right now, but they're going to be in that mix. So you want to, you know, this is a game that you kind of need to win heading into a game against Valley in your last divisional road game at Valley. Valley's tough at home, and Valley's been able to beat you at home before, so you really need to win that game. And then you go to Prairie View to close out conference play, another tough game. Prairie View could be playing for the division at this point. So you're looking at a team that's gonna be a tough out on the road, and then you close out at home against Tuskegee in the Turkey Day Classic, a game that historically Tuskegee's done well in. So this schedule is not easy. Their conference schedule is hard. They play three of the top 5 teams in the West and Southern, even though that's a non-conference game, but still you play 4 out of the top 5 teams in the West, regardless if it's conference or non-conference. That's a tough slate. You get 2 in-state opponents from D2 at home. Those 2 games you have to win. So you have to win the Miles and Tuskegee games. You have to beat you have to beat Bethune-Cookman. You have to beat Valley, and you really need to beat Alabama A&M. I mean, that's regardless of whether you pick first or pick last. That's a game that you need to win. And I'm gonna say the same thing about Alabama A&M when I get to them in a minute. I really want these teams have to lose, but this is a must-win for both teams. That makes this game very important. So games that to me, you're gonna have to beat either Grambling or Prairie View to give yourself a good chance at finishing in the top part of the division. This is, like I said, this is a tough schedule. Like I said, playing Alcorn is tough. Playing Prairie View is tough. Playing Jackson and FAMU, those games could easily be losses. Or, I mean, with the way your defense is, they could be wins if your offense can find some footing. But your defense does have some more questions that popped up that are going to have to be answered earlier than you thought in the season. So the early portion of the season is definitely important to this team, but playing 2 of the top teams in the conference to open up conference play is definitely a recipe for a slow conference start. 3 of your first 4 games in the conference are against probably your preseason number 1 in the West and your preseason 1 and 2 in the East. You can flip flop JSU and FAMU 1 and 2 however you want to, but those 3 teams are gonna be 3 of the top teams in the conference. First 4 weeks of conference play, that's tough. You could find yourself 1 and 3 in conference play heading into the Magic City Classic. Then you need to win. You probably need to win out and to finish 4 and 4, which would probably get you in 3rd place. But they may still get you in 4th place. So this schedule just does not do you any favors. And the losses that you took coming out of the spring doesn't help either. And that makes this a tougher road than it probably should have been before. So that takes us to our number 3 team, which is Alabama A&M. The Bulldogs, again, before Alabama State took all those losses, I felt like Alabama A&M would be probably the 4th team in the division. Now I feel like they're 3rd, although I don't feel like it's a gap at all. They can probably be interchangeable, but I feel like this is a tough matchup for those 2 teams. A&M still, they have a really great running back in Donovan Eaglin. They feel like their running back room has improved. The receiver room, they feel like it is improved. The quarterback play is gonna have to be more consistent. Langford, if Casey, when he returns, is gonna have to take a hold of his job and hold it all year. Defensively, they still have to take a couple more steps to me, but they're taking strides, but they need to take bigger strides to finish off this season strong. They open up at Vanderbilt, which is a FBS money game. They get Lane at home. They need to win that game. Lane did sneak up on Tennessee State last year. I think Lane lost a couple of their big time guys, so should be a different team coming in the Cruz Stadium. You go to Southern on September 16th. That's a game that you really, that's a must win game. I shouldn't say must win, but that's an important first conference game of the season. I think that's a conference game. Let me see. Yeah, so that's your first conference game of the season. So definitely a very, very important game to get off on a good foot on the road. Picking up a road win could help propel you throughout the season. Then you get Pine Bluff at home. That's a game that you need to win. Pine Bluff is probably going to be the last place team in the West, so you definitely need to win that game. Tuskegee at home for homecoming. That's obviously a game that needs to be won. You can't slip in that game. You get Jackson State and Mobile. You played them tough last year, but couldn't seal the deal. You have, like I said with Bama State, if you want to finish higher than third, you're gonna have to beat either Jackson State or FAMU. Right now, I just don't see any of these teams beating either one of those two teams, but it's possible. I'm not saying that Jackson State is unbeatable. I'm not saying FAMU is unbeatable, but those are gonna be two games that are your toughest games on the schedule. In FCS play and conference play, those are gonna be your two toughest games. You go to Grambling, that's never easy to win in the hole. You haven't beaten Grambling too often, so definitely a tough game there coming off of Jackson State. The Magic City Classic, very, very important. The same things I said about Alabama State, you can flip it and say about the Bulldogs. If you want to finish higher than fourth, then this is definitely a game that you need to win. You get FAMU at home in a very that's an important game at this portion of the season because you could be anywhere between let's see, you could be anywhere between 1-4 and probably 4-1, depending on how some of these chips fall in conference play. So you could be sitting in a good spot, or you could be sitting in a bad spot. I mean, obviously, that's a lot of variance in between those two things, but for just for sake, you're probably going to be 2-3 or 3-2 after the first 5 games. This game could be the game that boosts you up to that third spot, but that's not going to be an easy game against FAMU. They're probably still going to be fighting for the division at this point, so that's definitely a tough game. You go to Bethune-Cookman. That's a game that you must win because I feel like if there's a team that's last, you need to beat them with those kind of teams. And same thing with Valley. You get them at home to close out the season. So this team, I think, has a better shot at things than Alabama State. And the division schedule is not that much easier. The non-division schedule is not that much easier than Bama State's because you get Southern and Grambling, but you get Pine Bluff instead of one of those other tougher teams. So that's an extra game that can be won. So if you're looking at Pine Bluff, Valley, and Bethune-Cookman, which are probably 3 of the 3 worst teams in the conference, you get those 3 teams, you beat those 3, and then you can take a win anywhere between Bama State, Southern, Grambling. Those 3 games there give you an opportunity to pick up a 4th win. And if you could beat 2 of those teams, then you're sitting on 5 conference wins, and you're probably solidly in 3rd place. So this just that one game against Pine Bluff makes this schedule, this conference schedule, just a little bit easier than Bama State's. Now anything could happen. We don't know what Pine Bluff's gonna have this season, but anything could happen in any of these games. This is the SWAC. Crazy things happen. Excuse me, but sitting here right now, I just feel like just the Magic City Classic is probably going to determine 3rd place. So I feel a little bit more comfortable with the Bulldogs right now, just because Bama State is having so much turnover late, and I don't really like that. So that takes us to our 3rd team on this list, and that's FAMU, who finally pops up, the number 2 team in the East. I can see them being number 1. Obviously, this season basically comes down to the Orange Blossom Classic. I don't want to say if they win that game, they win the East, but most likely if they win that game, they win the East. If they lose that game, they're not necessarily out of it because, I don't know, right now, Jackson State is kind of an enigma. I think JSU has the talent to finish first. Like I said, we just don't know how well this team is going to play this season. But I do think they'll go into the season as the number 1 team, although I can see FAMU going into it as number 1 as well. But this is a big game FAMU hasn't beaten Jackson State in a long time. That's Jackson State is their only 2 losses in conference play since they've been in the SWAC. So if they want to get where they're trying to go, which is the Celebration Bowl, they need to beat Jackson State. You know, I mean, you beat Jackson State, that's at least a tiebreaker. So even if you drop a game and they don't lose anymore, you still go because you beat them. So that tiebreaker aspect is huge for FAMU. Because this team, you know, they're losing some guys, but they recruited well, and they still return a lot of talented guys. Their running game is definitely going to have to be a bigger factor for their offense this season. But honestly, their season, I don't want to say starts and ends, but their season hinges on that first week. If they lose that game, then they're probably going to need Jackson State to lose 2 games to finish first in the East. So you make it easier for yourself if you win that game. And I mean, obviously, you go into every game with the idea that you're going to win it, but you definitely need to come out of this game on top. And that gives you all, you know, that gives you all the cards, you know, in your hand. You're playing with house money at that point. So I don't feel like you're going to lose 2 conference games. So if you beat Jackson State, I don't see you not winning the East, even if you did happen to drop a game. But you after you come out of Jackson State, you play USF on the road and West Florida at home. West Florida's a intriguing game. I mean, this team, you know, they picked up some talent still, but they lost their head coach. So we'll see, you know, what kind of team that they have. But this is a tough matchup. If this team is where they've been the last few years, that's going to be a tough matchup. You get Bama State at home, you get Valley on the road, and then you go to Southern. 3 teams that you should beat. Southern, we don't know, but FAMU's had Southern number for a long time. So Southern hasn't been able to get over that FAMU hump. Even at home, FAMU's one of the few teams to really just have, you know, just beat Southern almost consistently. So those are 3 games that you probably should win. And, you know, depending on where you're sitting off of the Jackson game, you could be 4-0 or 3-1. You go to Texas Southern, that's an intriguing game. TSU's going to be a team in the mix for the West. That's a tough matchup. Your non-division matchups are very tough. I mean, obviously, you get Southern and Texas Southern on the road and Prairie View at home. Those are not easy games. So you can slip up in one of those games, then you find yourself a little bit further out of the mix if you don't beat Jackson State. If you do beat Jackson State and you did drop one of those games, I think you still have a good chance, depending on how JSU does. After that, you go to Alabama A&M, which the last time you were up there, you were in a dog fight, no pun intended. And then you get Lincoln at home and Bethune-Cookman to close out the season. As I don't know if y'all can see, but my cat Nala has just walked across the screen. So y'all say hello to Nala. She just wanted to get on the show. Nala, can you move? Thank you very much. Get you out of here. All right, so like I said, this is easy. Like I said, this season basically hinges on the first week. I still feel like I wish that this game, the Orange Blossom Classic, was later in the season, because that way at least you could have some kind of intrigue heading into the game. Other than, you win, you in, you lose, you're out at week 1. So everything hinges with that first week. And just like I said about the Mad City Classic, the same thing goes for this game. And that leads me to my number 1 team, which is Jackson State. Again, I can see either one of these teams. Like I said, this season basically hinges on that first matchup. Jackson State does get South Carolina State to open up the season, so that's a game. If they can win that game and look pretty well in it, that can propel them. I mean, if they win it ugly, that doesn't mean that this team is not going to be good. If some kind of way South Carolina State was to get past them, that still doesn't mean that this is not going to be a good team. I think this team is probably going to take a few games to really gel, just to get some things under your belt, get the offensive line chemistry up to par, because I think a lot of people overlook how important it is for your line to play together for multiple weeks. I mean, you can have the most talented line, but if those guys don't know where each other are going to be at all times, then you're not going to gel right, and the offense is going to struggle. So, this is a tough opening 4 games for Jackson State. Luckily for them, 3 of those games are out of conference. So if you were to stumble some kind of way in any of those games, then you're still sitting in a good spot, provided you beat FAMU. If you lose to FAMU, then you're gonna be chasing them like they chase you the last couple of years. So you're coming out of South Carolina State with the Orange Blossom Classic, then you go to Southern, and then you get Texas State on the road. So 3 of your, basically the first 4 games are away from home. So you're gonna be tested from week 1. After those first 4 games, you should be okay because I think that's your toughest stretch of the season, honestly. You come out of that 4-game stretch with Bethune-Cookman, so that should get you a win under your belt. Then you get a week off. Then you go to Mobile to take on Alabama A&M. Then you get Alabama State at home. You go to Valley, and then you get Pine Bluff at home. I mean, you get Pine Bluff on the road, and you get Texas Southern at home. So your non-division slate is hard as well. I mean, you get Texas Southern and Alcorn in the non-division, but then you also get Pine Bluff, which gives you again 3 games against the bottom 3 teams, which definitely should, that's 3 wins in conference play. Depending on how that Florida A&M game turns out, that could be either the difference between winning the division and losing it. So I feel like you have a better opportunity with those 3 games. Texas Southern is intriguing, but I still don't know if they have enough to get past Jackson State, especially in Jackson. Alcorn is going to be a battle. That will probably be the preview for the SWAC championship game. I think that both of these teams, Alcorn and Jackson State, are going to be number 1 in their divisions going into the season. So these 2 teams could play twice at the end of the season. Alcorn really gave Jackson State a lot last year with no quarterback play. That's a thing to really remember. When Alcorn played Jackson, they did not have a good quarterback, and they were able to give Jackson State a lot of hard times. So with these 2 teams, maybe more at full strength, this could be again Alcorn maybe can win. I mean, it's going to be physical. It's going to be a head knocker, and it could be a preview for December 2nd. So. Just like I said about FAMU, that week 1 game is very important. That week 1 game is probably going to be what either sends you to the championship or keeps you away from it. Because if you lose that game, you need the other team to lose 2 times. And I don't really think either one of these teams are going to lose 2 conference games. So that definitely keeps you, that game is, that's your ace in your pocket winning that week 1 game. So, both of these 2 teams, their seasons basically hinge on that first week. Alcorn at the end is going to be a tough game for Jackson State, where Bethune-Cookman is FAMU's last game. So if J State is trailing FAMU, then you're going to have that depend on Bethune-Cookman to help you. And right now, I just don't think that's possible. So that's pretty much going to do it for our show today. Like I said, just to run through my list. Just to run through my list, my number 6, Bethune-Cookman, number 5, Valley, number 4, Alabama State, number 3, Alabama A&M, number 2, FAMU, and number 1, Jackson State. So that's going to do it for our show today. That's our way too early order of finish for the East. And as you can see, man, I'm working with slides for the first time, so that was definitely an adventure. We're going to try to get better with that. As we move forward. Wednesday we'll have our West Division order of finish. That's gonna probably change so many times between now and the start of the season. On the West Division, I think is a 5-team race, 5 out of 6. So who knows how that's gonna turn out? But man, make sure you hit that subscription button to subscribe to the channel and like the video, and catch us next week on another edition of SWACTalk and SWAC Smoke live on Thursday. 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, and we'll catch y'all in. Y'all have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll see y'all on Wednesday. Peace.